method. These workbooks provide age-appropriate supplementary activity sheets to challenge learners' understanding of the lessons and
For the discussion today, the topic will be on Back to School, Bringing the Digital Classroom to Life. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our VIBAL webinars. Experience learning. Ka-VIBAL? And now, to proceed with our webinar this morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Attorney Lian graduated from the Philippine Science High School main campus. She obtained her Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics from the University of the Philippines and went on to pursue her law degree at the Ateneo de Manila University. In 2009, she and her husband, Attorney James, decided to move back to Pampanga to start a family. The following year, Attorney Lian became the directress of the Magnificat Academy, then a new school with big dreams. She held the position of directress for 9 years, and it was under her term when the school had its first batches of grade school graduates who all incidentally achieved 100% passing rate in the regional science high schools in the province. She is currently the Magnificat Special Consultant for Academic Affairs. Now a mother of 3 girls, she is busy making sure the new normal for her kids is not too different from their pre-COVID routine. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Attorney Lovely Ann Carlos-Imbong.
Okay. Thank you, Vibal, for inviting me to share with your audience my learnings and for this topic today. So my topic today is back to school, bringing the digital classroom to life. Okay. So from the title itself, so when you say back to school, okay, what are we going back to? Okay, so back to what? When we say, and what school is it? Diba? So I'll just run through some of the terms that I'll be using frequently for my talk. So first, when we say back to school, I will be referring to the school that we knew before COVID. So that's in 2019. Let's call it 2019 BC, before COVID. Okay, because the 2019 school is different from what the 2020 schools that we are encountering right now. Okay, so for 2020, during COVID, the school that we now know is completely different from what we knew last year. Okay, so So back to what? We're going to what school? Are we going back to the old campus that we used to know? In 2019, when we say we're going back to school, it means we're going back to the physical school, to the physical building, to the physical campus. Okay. Um, and also, when we say back to school, it also includes the playground, the grounds of the school, the area where the people congregate, the students meet, maybe the parking lot where the school buses are parked. Okay. Are we going back to that this 2020? So that's a question that we already know the answer. Okay. Are we going back to this old classroom? Are we going back to the brick and mortar, table and chairs, shelves, posters on the walls? Are we going back to that classroom for this school year 2020? Okay. So when we say we are going back to school, are we looking at the place or the space that we are going back to? The place meaning the actual school, the campus, the building, the grounds, or the space, the classroom itself, where the books and the shelves and the tables and the chairs are. Okay, are we going back to that? How about the materials? Are we going back to the same materials? Meaning, are we going to still use the same books or textbooks that we are going to use, that we used before? For vocational schools, are we going back to the kitchen, to the same pots and pans, or to the woodworking materials and equipment that we used to use? Are we going back to that? Okay. Next, the people. Are we going to meet the same people? The teachers, the school bus drivers, the classmates, the secretaries, the guards, the maintenance people in the building of the classroom, or the people who meet on the way to the classroom or on the way to school. Are we going back to that this 2020? Okay. How about the curriculum? Is the curriculum still the same? Okay. For us, there are a lot of people there are a lot of parents who enrolled their students to particular schools based on the curriculum. We usually have the traditional curriculum that's espoused by DepEd. There are some preschools that have the progressive curriculum, just like what we have in Magnificat. We also have Piagetian curriculum, or maybe the science and math intensive curriculum. Are we still going back to that this 2020? How about the grading system? Will it change? Okay, our old grading system. There are some schools that use the letter grading system. Some schools use the regular percentages. And then, so are we going back to that grading system and the assessments to get to that grade? Are we still going back to that? And most importantly, the method. The method that's used by the teacher. When we say method, that's the technique used the teacher. Does the science teacher use a lot of videos? Does she bring out the posters that show the different organ systems? Does the AP teacher bring out her dioramas? Okay, so I am showing you right now an advisory issued by the Department of Education. This was actually relatively late. It's the news article is dated August 15, 2020. Okay, but even before that, we've already been speculating on whether or not we will be having face-to-face classes here during this school year. Okay, of course, everyone know by now, even the kids know it. The COVID pandemic has arrived and has stayed and is lingering. And so one of the questions that was raised during that time was, paano nababalik yung mga bata sa eskwelahan? Lalo na one of the first moves that the government did was to make sure it was a total lockdown, focusing on senior citizens and on the children. So back in March, maybe that was hindi pa natin naisip na ano kaya mangyayari sa June 2020? But now, ngayon, we realized that next week, magpapasukan na ang the rest of the public school system. For some private schools like us, we've already started our classes. So I'm showing you this news article focusing on what the DepEd said. So if you can read that highlighted portion there, the DepEd encourages using only distance learning modalities, and then that there are no face-to-face classes. So, maraming nagtanong, di ba? Paano yung classroom? Paano mapapasok ulit yung mga bata sa paaralan kung walang face-to-face? Okay? We are also fortunate na somehow we are also fortunate because nung nagka-COVID, nung na-detect na ng ating national government na may COVID dito, and then they decided to lock down, somehow medyo patapos na yung school year, at least for the public schools, because that was around mid-March. So medyo patapos na, kumbaga nasa fourth quarter na. Maybe some have, maybe the graduating classes have even in fact finished their coverages for the fourth quarter. Okay, somehow we were lucky because patapos na yung school year natin, and for other countries, they were in the middle of the school year, so they had to act quickly. Kasi nasa kalagitnaan ng kanilang school year, they had to adapt suddenly. Hindi naman pwedeng. Of course, they also implemented their own lockdowns, but then they also had to keep the education, keep the learning of their students, of their own citizenry, their own students alive at that time, around March. So while we went into lockdown, we also looked outside. We looked at the other countries. Ano kayang ginagawa nila? Ano kayang gagawin nila? And ano yung mga best practices na pwede nilang gawin, na gagawin nila, na pwede nating i-adapt. Okay? And then I remember distinctly that there was this one time, I think around July, South Korea, or June yata, South Korea opened its senior high school. And then yun naman, South Korea, somehow is a very progressive country. And then they really, pag nakita mo yung classroom nila, kitang-kita mo, parang punong-puno ng plastic. Each student's desk nakapaligid ng plastic to protect the students and to prevent the spread of the COVID. But after 1 week, the schools that in South Korea that opened had to cancel classes again because there was an outbreak of COVID cases in their classrooms. So with that, I think DepEd also learned its lesson kasi diba, we learn lesson, we look at others and see what we can pick up. And then from there, not only DepEd but also as parents, medyo nabahala din tayo. Are we ready to go back to face-to-face? Ang South Korea nga, with probably more disciplined students, and they're more advanced technologically, they have more funding maybe to provide this protection for their classrooms and for their students. Still, they had a breakout in just 1 week of classes. Ano pa kaya tayo? With our numerous population and not so ideal infrastructure, diba? So that's also the background why DepEd came up with this statement na maybe for this school year, no face-to-face classes can be had for school. And of course, as a parent, natawa din ako because it means my kids will be safe. But also, that also raised the question, ano mangyayari? Paano na mag-aaral ng science yung anak ko? Wala na silang experiments, wala naman kaming beakers dito sa bahay. Paano na yung PE nung aking malikot na bunso? Dito lang siya tatakbo sa bahay. Okay? So these are just some of the things that we, parents, educators, are encountering right now in time for the opening of classes for 2020. So the 2020 during COVID education. Okay, so here, the slide is bigger. So it says using only distance learning modalities and that there are no face-to-face classes. That was the categorical statement issued by DepEd. I remember. Even us in our school, we were also speculating, baka face-to-face na, kaya na ng second sem. Diba? But with this statement by DepEd, of course, DepEd also takes into consideration not only the students, but also the safety of the teachers and the support staff, the secretaries, the maintenance, the guards, the the people who help the school run, diba? The admin there. So for this school year, this is what we're faced with. No face-to-face classes for the school year. So with that directive of DepEd, what has changed? Okay, so here, we've discussed earlier, what makes a school, diba? Before COVID, when we say school, what do we think of? Kasi is it the place? Is it the classroom? Is it the space? The campus? The grounds? Are we talking about the materials, the books? Are we talking about the teachers, the people, the curriculum, traditional, math and science intensive, science high school? The grading system, will it change? Will the method change? So with the no face-to-face statement of DepEd, okay, what changed? Of course, number one, the place and the space. No face-to-face classes means that the students no longer had the students cannot go to school physically, cannot go to school in the campus, into the school grounds, and have their classes in the classroom. Okay? Are the materials the same? Probably. Maybe some schools said, bakit papalitan ba natin ang ating mga textbooks? Maybe some schools adopted the same textbooks. Okay? The people, did the teachers change? Probably not, unless there are some teachers that had to be let go by some schools. Okay? But more or less no naman, di ba? Ang mga teachers natin sa Araling Panglipunan, sa Filipino, sa English, sila pa rin. Okay? Did the curriculum change? Yung traditional setup natin, teacher gives the lecture to the student, or kung halimbawa yung curriculum ng school na nyo is progressive, meaning child-centered and student-led, will it change? Did it change with the no face-to-face directive by DepEd? Hindi naman. Hindi naman. Did the grading system change? No. I think it's still the same. Okay. Did the method change? Yes. Why? Because of the change of space, meaning we lost the classroom because the students no longer had to go to the classroom. They were unable to, not only the students, actually also our teachers. As much as possible, if they can work from home, then the school, the DepEd encourages them to work from home. Okay? So without going to the classroom, the method also used by the teacher also changes. Imagine yung mga vocational schools natin that used to teach pastry or cookery. Suddenly, paano sila magtuturo online ng cooking? Or yung mga med schools, paano nila without bringing in the cadaver, 'di ba? Usually ganun, or for K-12 schools, science. For the higher years, may experiments na yan. How can you do a scientific experiment sa bahay? Paano mo mapaprovide yung mga litmus paper, yung mga beakers, yung mga test tubes, yung mga Bunsen burner? Paano yun? So, the teachers had to alter their method of delivery. Okay? Maybe in the regular classroom, I know a teacher, she's a seasoned Filipino teacher. Papasok siya sa classroom, titingin niya lang kung anong topic na niya for that day. Alam na niya kung anong, kaya niya mag-lecture for 1 hour straight. Okay? But can she still adopt the same method now in 2020 during COVID in a digital format? Baka hindi. Kasi baka mag-zone out or madaling mawalan ng interest yung mga bata, lalo na kung hindi entertaining yung nakikita nila sa TV or sa screen nila. Diba? Okay? So with that change in the space or change in the place, because we lost the physical classroom, the teachers, the school, the admin had to change. They had to adopt a different method in delivering the most essential learning competencies, ika nga, sabi ng DepEd. Okay? Hindi na pwede yung dati. We had to adapt. Okay? So, again, with with the place and the space, there had to be an adjustment in the method. Okay? So, um, so here we have no more classroom, like I said. And then, did we only lose just the classroom? Did we only lose just the commute to school? Did we just lose the table and the benches and the shelves and the posters or the blackboard and the chalk? No, because not only did we lose the physical classroom, but we also lost the classroom presence. So when I say classroom presence, what is classroom presence? Okay, classroom presence include the teachers. It's the interaction between the teachers, the classmates, the blackboard. Yeah, yes, we lost the blackboard. It includes the tree, the bench, the hallway kung saan nagkikita-kita yung mga bata or nagsasagihan at nag-aaway minsan. The lobby that receives all the students na kung saan dadaan in front of Kuya Guard at magla-log in or papakita yung ID before entering the campus. The library kung saan nagre-research or where the preschool hangs out to read preschool books, the lavatory. Those are the things that we lost. Okay, it's not just the physical brick and mortar classroom. What we lost actually, and I think that's the more important thing here is we lost the interaction. So when you look at it kanina, so if you compare 2019 schools to this year's schooling, as much as possible, the schools try to replicate what was before and try to bring in everything and try to act as if nothing happened, adapting it the best way they can. Using the same books, using the same curriculum, grading system, teachers. But yun nga, and that's in the school's part. On the part of the student, ano yung nawala sa kanya? Same teacher, same classmates, nagkikita-kita sila online. What they lost was actually the interaction. The interaction with other students, and not only with other students, the teacher, the interaction with the secretary, the interaction with the Kuya Guard who helps them, with the maintenance who cleans up their messes or helps them sweep the floor. Diba? And that's what they lost, interaction. Okay. Of course, there are other things also. Now, they are more confined to a smaller space. So, yung PE subject nila, hindi na katulad ng dati na nasa playground sila naglalaro. Diba? Doon nila linalabas ang kanilang mga pent-up energy. Yan. Ngayon, mas magulo na yung bahay kasi dito na naglalaro yung mga bata. Yes, we also lost a lot of things, a lot of those. But I think interaction really plays a big part on that chunk that the kids lost in this 2020 classroom. Okay, so the classroom presence also, why did I enumerate those things? Okay, those are also the zones of learning. Okay, zones of learning. Because of course, we all know that learning is not confined in the four walls of the classroom. Okay, with their interaction with classmates or mga kalaro nila during recess or lunch break, they learn the value of patience, perseverance, maybe being kind to a classmate. Okay, so they learn maybe not academically, but they develop their other areas of development. Okay, physical, social, language, cognitive. Okay, so not only did we lose the classroom, they lost the classroom presence because those were the zones of learning for them, for the students. Okay. Now, so let's go back to my original topic. Okay. So back to school. Since we're not able to go back to that old classroom, and we are faced with to have classes in the digital arena here online, how can we bring the digital classroom to life? Okay? So those interactions kasi before, okay? Sabi ko nga, those are zones of learning. They had, they were called zones of learning because the students, learned something from them. Okay? The playground is a zone of play where the students expel their energies. In the classroom is the zone of academic learning. Okay? Usually, the teacher is in control. Pag may malikot, lalapit lang si teacher, tatabihan lang yan, or madali niyang suwayin. Okay? Can she still do that ngayon sa ating classroom? I think one of the challenges then in a digital classroom is classroom management. Diba? Well, it depends on the class size. Okay? Um, what's one thing also, okay? Before COVID, so 2019 BC or before COVID, when the students go to school, they were independent. They were alone. I mean, when they go to school, wala silang kasamang mommy sa classroom, wala silang kasamang guardian sa classroom, 'di ba? But right now, in the new setup that we have right now, when the students um, are studying from home, suddenly they lost their independence. When I say the lost independence, meaning they are no longer alone in the classroom. Maybe nandyan si mommy sa tabi or si daddy. Or maybe hindi naman katabi. Maybe in the same room lang pero naririnig ni mommy kung ano yung pag-uusapan in the classroom. Maybe she's there. She can help during seat work. Or maybe there's some parents who really leave their kids in a room and then dun siya nagkaklase. And then, so, it was independent yung bata. Okay? But unlike nung 2019, before COVID, the student is not 100% alone in the classroom. Okay. So, but in the digital classroom also, it also, of course, has its good points then. Okay. But maybe my talk here is in the perspective of a school or of a teacher who was caught unawares then. We had no idea that this was going to last this long. Akala natin, okay na yan by June 2020, back to school, back to normal na tayo. But then suddenly, here we are faced with the task of buying laptops, upgrading our internet, diba? Buying iPads, gadgets, headsets, earphones, ano pa, merong iba yung special glasses that ward off the glare that comes from the monitor. So suddenly, well, if you belong to that group who is able to purchase that, you are very fortunate, diba? But for the others, the very basic can do minsan cellphone lang para lang maka-attend ng classes. And then, and that's where we are right now. Okay, so let's go into the digital classroom. What is inside the digital classroom? Okay, so first, let's go to where. Okay, where, if the classroom before used to be a physical room in the first floor, in the second floor of a building, in a school, okay, right now in school year 2020, during COVID, the classroom probably can be in the sala, in the couch, in the bedroom, in a little corner, or in the table, in the floor, in the dining room. Okay. So it can be anywhere in your house, but it's a garden. I had some students who had their classes. Pag nakita mo, nasa garden siya. Yun. So even also with that, the student can also move from one room to another as long as there is internet. Kaya niya, di ba? Una, sa garden siya. Lilipat sa bedroom. Maya-maya, nasa dining room na. Okay? So they're more mobile. Is that a good thing? Well, probably. But it also depends on how the student uses that. Okay? Next is what? What do we use to access the digital classroom? Okay, so we have the computer, and what is the computer? Before, the teacher is the one in front, and we are all listening to teacher, and then she gives us all this. She gives us the lecture for the day, for the topic for the day. Maybe a quiz, maybe some seat works. Kung may malikot, tatabihan lang ni teacher, and then everything is quiet, somehow more orderly in the old classroom. But right now, what are our kids looking at? Are they facing a physical person? Are they across someone in the on the table? No, they're looking at a computer screen or a laptop screen or even a cell phone screen. Diba? Like I said earlier, interaction, hindi na siya ganun ka, ano, hindi na siya ganun ka, ka connect. Um, if may malikot na student or maingay na student, of course, teacher can try to kaya niyang bawalan, kaya niyang pagsabihan, but then it's also so easy for that erring student na i-zone out na lang si teacher or to ignore na lang. Kaya nga classroom management is also a challenge this school year in our digital classroom. Okay? So, how do the kids learn? Okay? In the digital classroom, they can watch videos. They can be listening to an audio, or can be listening to an audio recording, or they can be listening to teacher. So auditory, yeah, using their ears. Writing on a whiteboard. Okay, in our school, not only before in our old pre-COVID classroom, the whiteboard and the whiteboard marker was usually used in math. But now in the 2020 during COVID classroom, a lot of our teachers found out na yung whiteboard and yung whiteboard marker na yan is very handy. It's very, especially when they try to do some classwork or seat works. Yan. Okay. How do they interact with the digital classroom? They type on the keyboard. Yan. Some they do it in chat. Some I guess when they answer quizzes on the online quizzes, they use the keyboard. So may mga implements that help them access the digital classroom. Okay, and this is the part, the second how. This is the one that I was telling you about before COVID in 2019, before COVID, when the student goes to school, mag-isa siya. When the student goes to syempre, ihatid siya kunwari, pero pagdating na sa classroom, mag-isa na lang siya. And so the child is more independent. You can say that independent, and we are 100% sure na yung mga sagot niya doon sa quiz na yon is galing sa kanya. Okay, but right now, especially for the younger students, we've had younger students, syempre kailangan pa ng tulong ni mommy tsaka ni daddy kasi hindi naman nila alam kung ano ang pipindutin sa iPad or sa desktop or sa laptop. So usually, for this school year in 2020, the student probably is with a parent or a grandparent or a guardian. Okay, so in short, the student is not alone anymore. Probably they're not exactly seated beside the student, but there is someone there, easily accessible, to help the student. Supposedly for technical issues, but then what is stopping them from also helping out in the classwork, in the seat work? Okay, so the student is not alone anymore. Okay, in this digital classroom that we have. Okay, so the old 2019 before COVID school life had its pluses. Okay, and it's also through that's why we want to replicate it in the 2019 during COVID digital classroom, because the old classroom served its purpose. There was purpose in the interaction, there was purpose in the independence, diba? There was purpose in that. There was purpose in the long walk going to the classroom alone, diba? It builds independence, it builds confidence in the child. So we also want to replicate that now in this digital classroom that we are trying to have. The students really thrive in routine. They like routines. They like knowing what's going to come next. So right now, when we are all faced with this uncertainty, especially with probably erratic internet, diba? It's good to know for a child that there are some things that are still familiar. That's why schools, the old teachers are still there. The books that they're familiar seeing, that they're familiar with, is still there. Maybe the classroom note, the school notebooks are still there. So something familiar. I've had some students also who attend their digital class, their online classes in the school uniform. Kasi for them, pag sinuot nila yung school uniform, parang naka-school mode. Hindi siya naka-play mode or naka pambahay mode. Okay? So, iba-iba. May mga students na kaya nilang i-shift yung kumbaga yung mind nila, parang okay, this is school mode. I am focused. Ayan. But sometimes there are the younger ones, especially the younger ones, they need a trigger. They need a um, more physical reference na this is school. So they wear their old uniforms, yung mga kasya pa sa kanila. Okay? Um, so so habang tinatahak natin itong panibagong school year na to, tinatry din nating i-replicate yung dating nakasanayan natin na 2019 before COVID school classroom. Okay. Okay. So we also try to simulate the different stages of the before classroom or before COVID school life, so that the students will still get what they should be getting as if there was no COVID. Wait, why? If you remember, kanina we ran through the classroom. The classroom is the place of academic learning. Okay, where the teacher is in charge. She's someone we can easily go to if something's wrong, someone got hurt, may nag-aaway. Okay, the playground is where we expel our energies, where students expel their energies. That's when they practice their emotional and social skills. Okay, the library is where the students go when they want to learn and read books and maybe have some quiet time and be alone. The interaction with people outside the home builds self-confidence and self-awareness, diba? In the classroom, in the old school, in the old classroom, in the old 2019 before COVID school, the students somehow are in a safe place. Anyone they interact with is a safe stranger. Okay? Maaring si Kuya Maintenance yan, si Ate Janitress, di ba? Yung secretary, si Kuya Guard, yan. The students get to interact with different kinds of people, yung mga ibang ka-year level, mga same class, same school, different year levels, di ba? They are in a safe place where they can easily interact. Okay? So, and that is, like I said kanina, that's one thing that is difficult to replicate this year for this 2020 during COVID classroom. Okay? But there are some schools, of course, but some schools, they try their best to focus on that. Okay? Remember our 5 domains of development. So there's social, emotional, cognitive, language, physical. Okay? So somehow, we, as parents, as teachers, as school administrators, in all aspects of the school, we try to hit those 5 domains of development. Okay? But also, with this unusual setup we have, there's COVID outside. We are forced to use digital classroom for those who are very lucky. For most private school, for most public school students, they will be using modules. Okay, they'll be maaaring yung 5 domains na yan hindi na natin mahihit lagi in this kumbaga papahapyaw na lang yung yung pag-address natin yung pag-address natin sa mga activities para ma-develop yung maybe 1 or 2 of those 5 domains. So the schools also, and that's also what DepEd has been doing. They try to focus on ano talaga yung pinakakailangan na kailangan makuha ng mga bata. And true enough, of course, number 1 is the cognitive, the learning, and that's what DepEd has been doing through the modules, di ba? the very minimum that students have to learn. Of course, there's some parents we've been hearing na they decided, ay, wag mo nang papasok yung anak ko, mag-delay mo na siya ng 1 year, ganun. Or maybe by choice or sometimes by circumstances. Wala silang pambiling gadget or walang magbabantay sa bata sa bahay habang siya yung sumasagot ng modules, walang aalalay sa kanya. So sabi niya, stop ka na lang muna. Ayan. So we are all faced with different trials and different circumstances, and we all try to adjust. Same with the schools. Okay. I know that there are some schools, I know of this all-boys school, they focus on the physical aspect. Kasi alam ng school na yan, puro lalaki ang mga estudyante niya. Kailangan i-address ang physical development nila. Lalo na mga little boys, kailangan i-expel yung energy. So whenever so yung dating PE na once a week lang, they have it 3 times or twice a week, 1.5 hours each. Kasi for that school, they knew the importance of the physical development of their clientele who are young boys. Kasi all boys school nga siya. There are some schools, like maybe for us here in Magnificat, we of course we try to hit all 5 domains of development. But we also acknowledge that it is the interaction aspect that the kids will have very less of all the 5. Physical, pwede maglaro sa bahay, may kalaro yan, or kahit na naman, hindi naman kailangan may garden para ma-address yung physical. Cognitive is going to be addressed by the teacher in the class. Language also. Social, yun yung nawala, the interaction. Emotional, somehow, parents can also give that. But the social aspect, of course, andyan si mommy and daddy naka-interact nila. Maybe lola, lolo, cousins who live in the same house. But nawala na yung nakikipaglaro sa daanan with kapitbahay. Bawal na ngayon, di ba? Wala na rin yung yung nakikipaglaro with classmates or may interaction with not only students but also other support staff in the school. Okay? So, different schools or different, we try to focus on what we can give better, what we can give best out of those 5 domains. Okay? Okay. So, what must the school prepare for? Okay? So, for a lot of private school teachers or administrators who have already started their classes just like us, and we've had a lot of preparations. Of course, the first is number 1. We all know internet connection. Okay? Kung yung dating may internet service provider naman yung school, ina-upgrade, 'di ba? Or yung mga or kung walang kukuha ng second account kasi malaki yung internet load na kailangan ng school. Okay? So, software and hardware. Of course, we have to upgrade the software. Kahit gaano kalakas ang internet mo, kung mababa ang hardware, ang RAM or ang mga computers mo ay hindi naman Celeron pa, ganyan, hindi pa sila Intel, kailangan, walang saysay din yung mabilis at malakas na internet signal or connection, di ba? Software din, di ba? Anong gagamitin? Anong platform ang gagamitin natin? Anong learning management system ang gagamitin natin? Ang dami, di ba? Ang daming, I think even VIBAL, I remember, yes. So VIBAL has the V Suite. Yan. And then, so it's just a matter of knowing what, as a school, of knowing what you need and then looking around, ano yung mga pwede. Ganito kalaki ang class size ko. Kailangan ko ng software that can accommodate ganito kalaking classroom, ganitong class size. Kami, we are fortunate in Magnificat. We only have a small class size. That's why classroom management is manageable. Hindi katulad nung for some schools, they have 40 students. Can you imagine? Sa screen mo, meron kang 40 na 40 little pictures, 40 yung students mo. Siguro meron na diyan hindi na nakikinig, hindi mo na nasasaway, may nag-iingay, hindi mo naman ma-mute all, 'di ba? So um, in all that, the school had to look at what it had. Are my teachers also um, adept? Ayan. Alam ba nila kung paano mag-access ng mga ganito? O after the school decides what software and bought all the hardware, ito na yung ating high-speed internet connection. Next is, of course, teacher training and support. Teacher training and tech support. Okay? And that is, because, of course, one of the most important elements in a school, one of the most important components in a school are the teachers. Okay? If not the most important. Okay? So kahit gaano kaganda ang school mo, kung ang teachers mo ay hindi marunong o kahit gaano sila katalino pero hindi nila ma-convey yung kanilang knowledge sa students, sayang. 'Di ba? Same thing din here. Kahit gaano kagaling ang teacher mo, if hindi siya marunong gumamit ng software na pinili ng school, sayang yung niya. Sayang yung knowledge sana niya na pwedeng i-impart niya sa mga students. Okay, so there was a lot of extensive training with the teachers, how to upload, how to make a quiz, how to make your PowerPoints, how to make videos, and how to assess the students, how to so many things, how to upload your file. This is your Google Drive, so many things, and of course tech support. Diba? Especially, I remember the first week of classes we had, ang daming tech issues. Naririnig, pero hindi nakikita. Tapos gumamit ng headset. Tapos may microphone, pero wala siyang audio, hindi niya naririnig. So the schools also had to invest in tech support. Now, also, what must the home prepare for? I think this was also tackled by some past VIBAL speakers also. Okay, of course, number one, again, internet connection. But when we say internet connection, it's not just the internet connection, it's the access to the connection. Meaning, if you're on a laptop and you're using Wi-Fi, parang mas maganda yata kung mas malapit ka dun sa router, di ba? As compared to kung malayo ka. So kahit gaano kabilis yung internet connection mo, malayo ka sa router, naka-Wi-Fi ka lang, mahihirapan ka din. Maaaring maglalag yung internet access mo, internet connection mo. Okay, so is it Wi-Fi? Are you going to use LAN cables? For desktop, actually kung laptop nga, para mas secure and mas constant yung connection mo, use LAN, the LAN cables. Okay? Software also. Of course, kahit na lumang laptop, hindi naman niya ma-access yung software na napili ng school. Of course, the parents had to upgrade. Hardware also, same din. I have 3 kids. Suddenly, parang, magagamitin nila lahat. Sila dapat may tig-iisang gadget. Diba? So, yung mga lumang cellphones, sige, baka kaya pang i-upgrade ng konti. Ayan. So, yun na lang munang gagamitin nila. And of course, here in our school, we really focused on this, space. Okay? Meaning, we recommended that each of the students have their own dedicated kahit table and chair man lang, kahit little corner lang. Basta dun siya kapag nagkaklase siya. At dun niya din iniiwan yung mga books niya. Kapag nandun yung bata, parang nasa school siya. It doesn't have to be a big, isang maliit table, kahit isang maliit na table in a corner lang. It really does a lot. Okay, as compared to, of course, the dining table is always ready and big and napaka-comfortable. Siyempre siguro malambot yung upuan doon. Pero kung nandun yung bata, tapos kakain, magla-lunchtime na, naghahain na si nanay, syempre madi-distract siya, di ba? So, here in that, in the space, we recommend talaga to our parents that space be provided. Before, we've had students, in-access niya yung nagkaklase siya, nakahiga siya sa kama. O true enough, syempre, ang dali niyang antukin, di ba? Kahit na napakaganda ng kama, ang fluffy-fluffy, yun. Hindi siya, kumbaga, what we want is during the students to be in the right mindset during class. Diba? Okay. So, as we sum up, okay, So first, the home is not a school, so the simulation or the replication cannot be exact or perfect. Of course, 'di ba? What like I said kanina, we are making do with what we have. We are trying our best as a parent, as a school, as an administrator, as a teacher. We are trying to best to deliver what we used at the same caliber, at the same passion as we did in 2019, where it was when it was before COVID. Okay, we're all trying. We're all in the middle of the sea, trying to adapt. Okay, but in the end, okay, the home is not a school, so the replication is not perfect. Okay, but okay, this is different if you're doing homeschooling, which is um, a completely different setup. Okay, what I am addressing here is the traditional setup of the students going to school before in 2019 at ngayon in 2020 suddenly hindi na sila pwedeng makapunta sa school because of COVID. Okay, homeschooling is a different animal, it's a different setup, so hindi siya counted dito. Okay, so of course, why? Okay, it can be to well-off parents in a premier school here in wherever they are. It's just that yung bahay ng isa medyo nasa exclusive subdivision. Yung isa din nasa exclusive subdivision din pero medyo nasa corner ng subdivision. Their internet access may be different. Okay? So it's not only because you have money, it also depends on the setup, on the hardware that's available to you. Okay? The difference in the home setups will also make other students more prepared. Okay, like I said, faster internet. Merong iba naman willing to pay pero wala pang linya ang PLDT fiber sa area nila or ang Converge, wala pa kahit na willing to pay, wala pang linya, then they have to make do with the dial up, DSL or yung smart smart 6 lang ganun, or globe Wi-Fi lang, 'di ba? And which are less reliable as compared to fiber, 'di ba? Better hardware, of course. Okay? Laptops, desktops. When we were doing our simulations here in Magnificat, we made it a point na yung isang bata naka-laptop na Mac, yung isa naka-laptop na hindi Mac, yung isa naka-desktop, yung isa naka-iPad, yung isa naka-Android phone, yung isa naka-iPhone. Iba-iba yung itsura ng screen when they access the same classroom. So the teacher had to be conscious na sasabihin niya, you at the lower right corner, there the breakout rooms. Maaring hindi siya ganun nakikita ng other students kasi depending on the gadget that they've been using. Okay? So the teachers also had to be aware of that. Okay? And the parents also. Okay? So some they have home setup that are more comfortable. They're in more comfortable chairs. Nakaka-provide at may area sa bahay na doon siya mag-aaral, doon siya mag-aaral. Pag nagkaklase siya, doon siya naka-station, nandun yung mga gamit niya na pang school. Okay? Meron naman lesser distractions. Okay? Maaring marami silang magkakapatid. So, habang nagkaklase siya, may tumatabing may younger brother or younger sister na nadidistract siya. Diba? Okay? So, what else? So, number 2, the second, what we learned from this. The digital platform, no matter how well made or how user-friendly or how high-tech, cannot simulate or replicate the real classroom. Okay? Okay? This is it will never be the same. Okay? Coming from of course I am more biased to face-to-face classroom because how the teacher commands the classroom, her mere presence silences the noisy students. just the parang kumbaga anino pa lang ni teacher naglalakad na nagse-settle down na yung mga students kasi ready na sila. Pagpasok ni teacher, ready na silang magklase. That cannot be replicated in the digital classroom. Okay? But, yan, as much as possible, di ba? We try to, di ba? But the digital classroom cannot achieve the same level of discipline, and then it can never simulate or replicate what happens in the real classroom. Okay. What else? Um, the interaction, like I said, here in our school, like I said, diba, we focused on the interaction. What we did was we instead of just having classes, we asked the teachers na teach more ano ha kasi in our classroom usually it's the teacher who gives the lecture, and then the students do some seat works or some quizzes, some classwork, ganyan. But here parang ang hirap na one-sided lang, isa lang ang nagsasalita, di ba? Madaling mag-zone out. So in our classroom, what we said is make it more interactive. Not interactive na kailangan parang kailangan laging bibo-bibo si teacher. Interactive in such a way that you also ask questions. Let them talk. Because that is one thing that we felt that the students lost, like I said, the interaction. So we encourage the students to come in early. Their classes start at 8:30, 8 o'clock. We already open the classroom. So they have 30 minutes of interaction. Nagkukwentuhan sila, nagkukulitan. But again, we have a small class size. We have a maximum of 15 students per classroom. So we have a manageable number of students. So kaya namin yun. But I can imagine other schools, 40 in a classroom. Oh, that will be crazy. And then all of them talking, sabay-sabay sila nagsasalita. Yan. But in our case, because we knew that we would be able to do it, we'll be able to handle it. Of course, sometimes it gets out of hand and tas nag-mute all na lang si teacher. But she is always there, our teacher is always there to manage and to, channel also the conversation during those interaction times that they had. Okay. So next. So how then do we bring life to the digital classroom? Of course, number one, give the teachers the best digital workspace. Okay. If they need desktops, as much as possible, if the teachers are able to work from home, diba, and they have internet access, then there's no reason why they have to go to school pa. If the teachers need a desktop, walang pambili, like what we did, we lent them some of our desktops. Pinauwi namin sa kanila because as much as possible, we don't want them commuting, na-expose pa sila to possible to possible COVID to possible COVID infection, 'di ba? When they commute, 'di ba? So if the teachers can work from home, because like I said, you have to take care of your teachers. If the teachers can work from home, then give them the best digital workspace that they have. Kumbaga, our only requirement is, do you have internet access or fast internet access at home? If for a while we had teachers who didn't have, so for them they had to come here to school and conduct their classes, pero buti na lang eventually nagka-internet access na rin sa bahay, and then they were able to work from home na. Okay. Letter B, okay, guide the parents to set up the best digital desk or room for their child. Like I said, okay, having your own little corner for a child where the child can work on schoolwork, or maybe kahit hindi schoolwork, mag-drawing siya, kung mahilig siya mag-drawing, or mag-paint, or mag-design, or mag-play siya ng Lego. Then, kumbaga, merong little nook or little table na yun talaga for the kid. And that really helps them focus on whatever they're working on. Maybe schoolwork, or wala, gagawa lang siya ng drawing for you. Okay? And of course, more importantly, is to inspire teachers to be patient with their students so that the digital setbacks that are not the fault of the students or not intended by them are not taken in against them. Okay, unless they're doing it on purpose or the parents are not responsive to the recommendations of the teachers. Okay, tahimik naman here. Yan. The teachers naman are our teachers, again, the Filipino teachers are one of the best, di ba? Sabi nga nila, masyado nga lang, in our case, my husband kasi sa lawyer din. So sabi niya, nako, yung teachers mo, masyado silang caring. They're going over and beyond what is their task as a teacher. Yan. But sabi ko, but that's how teachers are, di ba? Over and beyond the call of duty, teachers really inspire. They take care of our kids, okay? And then, but with these digital setbacks that happen, syempre may mga pasaway na bata dyan, magla-lag out pag nagre-recit na si teacher. Tapos sabihin, I got logged out. Yun. So, syempre, the teachers also have to be aware of that. And I'm sure they are aware. Or there are some na biglang may classwork, tapos suddenly, biglang mag-off video, tapos suddenly, pag ganun, pag on na ng video, na-answeran na lahat ng mga lahat ng pinapagawa ng teacher sa classwork. So of course, we don't doubt that as strictly as if in the regular classroom, di ba? So, una gentle reminder lang, please try to be independent because for us then, at these times then, being right or giving the right answer is not actually as important as doing it independently and 100% on your own. Kasi for me, here at Magnificat, I tell them, mas matutuwa pa ako sa bata who got a 7/10, 100% sure ka na siya ang gumawa nun, wala siyang kasama sa classroom. Kesa sa isang student na naka 9/10, pero may doubt sa independence niya. Kasi somehow napatingin siya sa right ng gano'n, nakita niya si mommy or may nag-coach sa kanya. Because you can never tell, di ba? We're on this side. You can never tell kung nandun nga talaga si mommy, kung anong number or parang sasabihin ni mommy, hindi, sa number 9 ko lang naman siya tinuruan. You know? But still, may doubt na on the independence of the child. Okay? So, those are my conclusions there for my talk. So, to sum up, okay? So, one last parting words is to sum up is what changed, okay? The place and the space and the method had to change also. And by using our recommendations, giving the best support to the teachers, best support to the parents, using the most buying the best that you can, that your funds can purchase, hardware, internet connection, ganon. This somehow will affect how the digital classroom is managed. And also, as a school, you also focus on what you want because you can never hit all the five domains of development for this year. Somehow may iwan dyan. So really, with our limited resources and we're just working with what we have to focus on what we believe in as a school. Like I said, yung school nga for boys, they focus on PE. Kami, we focus on interaction. Of course, the cognitive and the language aspect is always there. There are some schools, some Catholic schools, they focused on their Christian life education, their values education. Because for them, syempre, the students are with their parents, the more character building is more important and more attainable kasi the parents are there to help them. Okay? So, as a school, as a parent, find your strength and then focus on that. As we try to navigate this year 2020 in the digital classroom that we have until next year 2021. Okay, so that ends my presentation, and I hope you learned you learned a bit, kahit a bit lang from my talk. So thank you, Vibal, again for inviting me. And I hope I was able to deliver a concise and an apt presentation about this one. So for back to school, bringing the digital classroom to life. Okay, so thank you, and I hope you learned something new today.
Thank you very much, attorney. Now, let us proceed to the question and answer portion.
Mm-mm.
Our first question is from Ban Smith. What is something you are doing now as a virtual learner and teacher that you hope you will be able to do next year when you are back at school?
Mhm. Yes, actually, we all hope that by school year 2021, 2022, we'll be able to go back to face. But of course, not everything about the digital classroom is bad, diba? But I think something that we learned here as a school is that um, in the 2019, hindi tayo as a school, hindi kami masyado nag-access ng mga materials online. Because for me kasi, like the teachers are the most important, sabi ko, they're the most important. Parang sila yung tagabigay ng knowledge. And the teachers already know that. But then now that we were forced to look into the internet, and then we see na ang daming resources na pwedeng gamitin na kumbaga you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. The science teacher can just choose a lot of videos and a lot of videos from National Geographic, from Discovery Kids, ganyan. And then yun na yung pinapakita niya sa class, and the students find it even more interesting. And I think that's something we might be able to carry next year. We can encourage our subject teachers to look for other materials online, and then maybe when we're back to the classroom setup, we just have the LCD setup, and then they can show it in the classroom, and it's more entertaining. Well, because it's syempre produced by this reputable scientific production companies din naman, and it's more entertaining, and because it's also a different kind of experience for the kids. When the teacher gives the lecture kasi, parang pumupulot lang sila ng you have to really be listening, di ba? And easily mag-zone out. But if they're watching a movie and then they're listening to an expressive presentation of maybe plant and animal life or vertebrates and invertebrates, then nagiging kumbaga mas tumatatak sa students yon. Okay. So yun.
Thank you, attorney. Our next question is from Hernan Kiatchon. During
Mhm.
face-to-face classes, it's difficult to discipline a class with a large number of students. How can a teacher instill discipline while conducting online synchronous class?
Oo. I think in this case, we have to acknowledge that the class size itself is working against the teacher. Okay. I've heard of other schools na 40 ang class size nila, and during class, everyone is supposed to be mute. Kapag nag-unmute ka, demerit yon. And nung narinig ko yun, parang nakakaawa naman itong mga bata. So, parang paano pag may tanong sila sa math? Paano pag division yung ituturo, di ba? They're not allowed to unmute, or parang they're not allowed to interrupt until the end na lang. Pero nandun na nga sila sa first part. Kapag nandun sila sa first part, hindi na nga naiintindihan. They have to sit through a lecture of not understanding, and then doon pa lang sila magsasalita kung makakasalita sila. So I think in a big class size, how to discipline them. Well, for one, you have to split them. I'm so sorry. I think because that's our experience, and that's what works for us. Like I said, we are fortunate to have a small class size, and they're very manageable. Pero kung a big class size, the teacher can only do so much. Naubos na yung oras niya sa kakasaway, hindi pa niya na-deliver yung lecture niya. So I think since DepEd also encourage synchronous and asynchronous modes of learning, you can do blended, like merong konting synchronous, meaning in class, it cannot be helped na maybe yon, i-mute na lang muna lahat sila. And then the asynchronous activities will be the dating classwork. Normally, it would be classwork, but then nagiging magulo kasi masyado nga malaki ang class size. I think it would be better to split them if you really want to manage them, or shorten your synchronous classes and give the bulk of the seat works, of the classwork, gawin mo na lang asynchronous. Yun. Because in the end, kasi, what's the primary role ba of the teacher? Di ba to educate? not to discipline. The discipline belongs to the parents. Of course, we can chat the parents all we want. We can text them, "Mommy, pakisabihan na lang po si ganito. Medyo magulo po siya sa class." Kumbaga, but the damage has been done. Na-disrupt na yung class mo kanina. So, in that school na I told you about, 40 students, lahat sila nakamute. Even if for me, parang kawawa naman sila, I understand where that school is also coming from because the teacher has a task to deliver, to educate. So, yun nga, yung problem of halimbawa, the student had a question sana na hindi na-address, it can be done after na lang during consultation with the teacher. And yun, mas makaka-focus siya. Maybe the teacher can give the lecture in whole class 40, pero later si split niya pang 2020 or fifth or tigda 10 na kapag nagka-class na during classwork. Yun, because 40 is really just too big. Yun pa.
Thank you very much, attorney. And our last question is from Rowena de Sagun. How can we create a new study routine for our child in this type of learning?
Yan. I remember I already attended a VIBAL talk also about routines. And I forgot. I think it was it was given by Dr. Capulso. So anyway, if I remember correctly, what he recommended, and also as a parent and as an educator, what we recommend is there really has to be a schedule. Oh, of course, I'll share to you. During this last summer, I asked my kids. I have 3 kids kasi their ages between 4 and 10. So I said, come up with a schedule. Tapos sabi, nag-list ako. These are the things that have to be in your schedule. Math time, kunwari math time. So, nandun yung sinulat ko yung subjects na gusto kong i-review nila. So, may math, tapos may science, pero nag-add din ako ng things na alam kong gusto rin nila. Art time, ganyan, or Lego time, ganyan. And then sila yung pipili kung what part of the day. Although I told them, math is supposed to be in the morning because that's when the brain is most fresh. So, try to make your academics in the morning. So, sila mismo yung gumawa ng schedule na yon. And then, as much as possible, they try to follow it. But of course, di ba, hindi naman 100% nasusunod yun. Alam naman natin. But somehow, because the schedule was made by them, then parang usapan nyo na, you commit ha, you said at this time you're supposed to be doing chores. And then also allow them, may TV time din sila or may play outside time din sila. Yan. It's difficult, yes, as a parent. But then, if you will not start it, then it will never happen. So I recommend somehow you do a routine. Maybe for some, you don't really have to write it down na after breakfast or after school, rest muna, and then mag-aaral, do ko ng homework para lahat ng afternoon, TV ka na lang. Then it can be like that. Or may ibang parents na, isang homework, isang TV show. Another homework, another TV show. So, you know your child and you know what will work for him or her. And so, of course, maybe it will work for a few days and then later it will not. But at least you have something to go back to. Why don't we follow your schedule all over again? So yon. So having a schedule is a small step. It's a small step. It can be the answer to your prayers, but maybe if I have younger kids, parang naku, ilang araw lang yan. But at least there was a small step towards that direction of having a schedule for the day. Yan. So yun pa.
Thank you very much, attorney. That's all the
Thank
questions
you.
we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
So our last reminder lang is, like I said, like I've been saying the whole talk is we all as parents, as teachers, as admin, we are all trying to do the best we can for our kids, diba? Of course, things are not like before. And if there's something wrong, like in the school, or you think that something can be better, diba? It's nice if you could give feedback because we're all in the same boat. Di ba? Because I've been seeing some posts sa Facebook, yung mga parents nagre-rant against the school, against the teacher. Kung naman yung teacher, parang it's not like, I mean, we're all doing this for our kids, for the kids, for the students. So we're all in the same boat. So it would be nice if we could all work together, especially that everything is new. Our teachers are nangangapa din in this digital classroom. Even the students are nangangapa din. And I think a healthy feedback mechanism is much, much better than posting rants on Facebook to be shared to friends. Diba? And yun, I also, as a parent also, I think it would be nice for parents to also listen to a lot of the nice topics in the Facebook Live series by VIBAL, because it also adds to our knowledge then. Diba? So we also understand how the students act, how our kids are reacting, how the teachers and the administrators and the DepEd are what they are thinking of, and how they are trying to manage this new digital setup that we have. So, yun pa. Okay.
There we have it. In behalf of VIBAL Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, attorney. And
Thank
to all
you. Mhm.
And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vibal Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.
Okay.